having a rough week for him, I'm sure. Yeah, well, we might as well get straight on to that. What happened on the weekend? All Blacks vs France at Stade de France, and once again, the All Blacks went down to France in the grey jerseys with Wayne Barnes refereeing. Fisky, what went wrong for the All Blacks?
Oh, where do I start? They're just totally and utterly outplayed, and even that sort of 20-minute period at the start of the second half when they got themselves back in the game, it was some brilliant footy just to get close, but I think France well and truly deserved the win. Second week in a row, the All Blacks have been humbled. Wasn't unlucky, wasn't dodgy calls. They were utterly and thoroughly humbled. And yeah, I'm like a lot of Kiwis, just kind of scratching my head. If I knew the answer, and I think everyone's got an opinion, I'll put it down to one or two things. But number one is just the physicality of the game, the forwards. I think the All Blacks are just falling behind there. We're great at throwing the ball around and great at playing against touch footy, but when it gets really physical, and we saw it with the Springboks in Queensland and we saw it with Ireland last week in particular, but yeah, just can't go with them, and there's just no plan B in attack when they're sort of faced with these problems. They can't hold onto the ball. So I've said enough. I want to hear Paul's thoughts and yours, but yeah, like I say, not even close personally.
Yeah, I completely agree. They just outmuscled, outplayed. Paul, did you have anything to sort of add on, along those lines?
I'm certainly in agreement there with Fisky. I think you'll find the bulk of Test match rugby, those games are usually won in the forwards and in particular in the tight five. And to be fair to the All Blacks, we have been totally outplayed in the last two matches in that area. I think Ireland 2 weeks ago and the French last weekend showed if you muscle up against the All Blacks and play a nice tight sort of game, keep the ball away from the All Blacks, then the All Blacks make mistakes, and if you can capitalize on those mistakes, turn those opportunities into points, then you'll go a long way to defeating the All Blacks. And the French and the Irish had very, very well thought out game plans. I thought the Irish defence 2 weeks ago was superb. I thought the French defence, once again, although not quite as up in the face as the Irish were, was still very physical. And I agree, we got out muscled, and you just don't see. Well, I haven't seen that in a long, long time from an All Black side. So they seem to struggle when game plan A doesn't go according to how it's been going in practice. They struggle. They don't seem to have anything else to turn that round. So there's quite a bit of work to be done there.
I can exclusively reveal that it was Richard that put together the International World 15 for 2021, and it was shared on social media, and I agree with it thoroughly. I thought it was very telling. There are only 2 All Blacks in the starting side, and you know what? I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I did pass on to Fisky, got a few points from him, but yeah, the only 2 All Blacks that made it were Ardie Savea and Will Jordan, and I mean, Savea just gives his all. He, obviously there was a yellow card in the weekend, which sort of was probably detriment to his game, but apart from that, he was one of the probably 2 best All Blacks on the park. And then, Will Jordan had a probably quieter game in the weekend, but I mean, he's just been an absolute breakthrough star this year. But yeah, I mean, even when I was doing it, I felt weird putting only 2 All Blacks in that team, but sort of had to be done, didn't it? Was there any positives to take? Any players that sort of stood out? Anything you want to anyone you want to shout out, or was it all pretty doom and gloom for you guys?
Oh, look, I think it's good to call Ardie out. I think he's in every team side in the world if you could pick him. And, yeah, he got sent to the bin, but he never gives up. I thought that the midfield, Ioane and is it Quinn Tapua, they were solid. Geordie didn't have his best game. But, no, not a lot to call out. You know what I start thinking when I go through the side, and it's just in the key positions. They're the lock forwards and maybe your 10 option with Bodie, and then when you look at Dane Coles and Aaron Smith, you're kind of starting to look a bit old. and with the World Cup in 2 years, they're only going to be that little bit older. Whereas the French Ntamack is only going to improve in the next 2 years, and we see people like the Freddie Stewart, England fullback, and a few others. Like, there's some good players coming up, and the All Blacks sort of have a lot of their best players on their way back down. And Retallick really hasn't hit the form he showed 2-3 years ago, and still a great player, but that's worrying me. It really is. What do you think, Paul?
This is sort of shades of 1991, where we had the best team in the world in 1987, and we pretty much had the same team in 1991, and there are a number of those players who were on the way down. They had passed their use-by date. Their best years were behind them, and we're almost heading down that same sort of track this time. And certainly, if we hold on to this squad for the World Cup in 2023, it will definitely look like a repeat of 1991. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to blood a few more players, or a few more younger players, put their hand up during Super Rugby, and then get rewarded with a black jersey. I know there were quite a few black jerseys handed out this season, but there's still. I agree with Fisky. They're an aging side at the moment, and they don't quite have that balance right. And I don't think they quite have a game plan to suit the styles of rugby and the styles of defenses that they're going to be coming up against in the World Cup. So still, it's still a couple of years away, but there's a lot of work to be done before that. And I don't know. I don't know whether we've got the right group together to get that work done.
So, Rissy, I'll put it to you, mate. You're the host, but I'll play host for a minute. Is Ian Foster the right guy to A, unlock the deficiencies in our opponents, and B, bring the right players through to give this squad a bit more youth and exuberance? Is he the right guy?
Well, if you look at the record so far, you'd probably say not so much. The team that is they're starting sort of 15, 23 at the moment. I was just going to say most of the debutants we've seen this season have just come in those games against your Tongas and your Italys and your United States. So, I mean, we watched the sort of Bunnings NBC this year and saw some of that young blood coming through. So the talent's there. It's probably just about getting them there. It's interesting to see Scott Robertson asked about it, and he sort of kept his opinions to himself this week. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about whether he would have been the right man for the job. I think if you're asking that question, Fisky, Scott Robinson probably would be better at sort of bringing a fresh, new sort of game plan in. But obviously, New Zealand rugby, it's not what they wanted. They obviously wanted that. So they wanted to keep it with that sort of tried and tested, and it's probably it's not. Doesn't seem to be sort of at its best. That said,
you should get into politics. Like, I've asked you, is he the right guy? I'll tell you, I'm giving him an F. I think it's a fail. Paul, what's your answer, mate?
Yeah, well, there's a vacancy in the National Party at the moment, Rishi. If you're keen, I agree with Fisky there. You spent about a minute and a half running around saying nothing. I'll give you the tip. No, I don't think Foster is the right man for the job. And I think Robertson should be in there, but I don't see a change being made.
No, won't happen now.
I don't think it'll happen now.
They'll see it out. They'll see it the final 2 years and see what happens. I mean, it's not. The season's not a complete fail for me. It was 12-3 record. They still retained the Bledisloe Cup comfortably, and they still won the Rugby Championship. So they smashed some point scoring records. So they can kind of throw it around and have some fun. But yeah, it's just when the opposition really comes at them, they just really, really need to address that, don't they?
Yeah, it's a real concern. It's a real concern.
So, Fisky, you said, is it a fail for the year from you?
Oh, for the year, no. Like, I think, there's players like Geordie Barrett have really stood up and world class. He was unlucky not to make that starting 15. And And there's a couple of players I've really enjoyed seeing develop, but it's not a fail, but it's a pass. That's all it is this year. Because really, who we've beaten? Australia on countless occasions, a horrendous Tongan and Italy and USA team, and Fiji actually tested us for about 60 minutes in those matches. So, and South Africa got the better of us in Brisbane, got humbled in those two big games towards the end of the year. Not a lot to get really excited about. Sort of beating Australia and Argentina in that sort of style of game that All Blacks can do in their sleep. Yeah, pass. That's it. Pass.
And you, Paul?
Yeah, 5 out of 10. That's about it.
C's get degrees, eh?
Yeah, it's just the big games that we wanted to win to finish off the season. We weren't in them. I think the score lines actually flattered us, to be fair, in those last two games. So although we've still got some trophies in the cabinet, I still think it was a disappointing season and just a what was it? A C, 5 out of 10, 50%.
50%. Fair enough. Yeah, I'll probably give them a C+, just a little bit above, but yeah, still plenty of room for improvement.